Hello, humans, to the part 2 of how I review phones. Just remember, everything here is subjective, and for some of my thoughts, you can take it with a pinch of salt. But today, I'm actually going to do an actual example review of the mystery phone. So, let's get started. No intro, okay? Alright, so this is the blank. On the outside, you can see a notchless 6.4-inch screen. On the back, you also get Gorilla Glass 5, and inside you get a good decent Qualcomm Snapdragon 730 processor. The motorized pop-up camera allows for a notchless display. So that what I did there is just like an intro, like the highlights of the device, which in this case are the 6.4-inch notchless display. It's designed with a Gorilla Glass 5 on the back. And that's pretty much, and that's it, but there's more. So after the intro, I usually start talking about the design, which is the first thing that you feel when you hold a phone. So design on the Xiaomi Mi 9T. The Xiaomi Mi 9T has a pop-up camera, and inside it is a 20 megapixel shooter. On the side, there are also notification lights that act as notification LED. Most companies don't even have a notification LED anymore, so this is a little plus. The sides, the frame are made from aluminum, while the screen and the back is made from Gorilla Glass 5. On the side, right side, you get your volume buttons and the power buttons. On the top, you get your motorized camera, a headphone jack, and a secondary microphone. You get nothing on the left. I'm supposed to hold a phone by now. And on the bottom, you get a 3.5 millimeter headphone jack, that's on the top. You get a USB-C port, your SIM card tray, and your single bottom firing speaker. So that was the design. Sorry for the mess up. What I usually go to next to talk about is the display. So I will tell you which things to specify about the display and which things I shouldn't. So the display is a 6.4-inch AMOLED display. It's 20 megapixel pop-up selfie camera, allows for no notch, which I've already said 3 times. So watching videos or gaming on it is really good. It is a 1080 by 2340 panel. Okay, some things you should specify is definitely if it's an LCD or an OLED. That is something you must specify. Second is the resolution. That you should specify too. Alright, here's some things that you may not have to specify. This is subjective, so do your own stuff. For me, there are like so much different names for the screens out there, like LCD, TFT, OLED, AMOLED, Optic AMOLED, Super AMOLED, Dynamic AMOLED. That's Samsung. Okay, I don't care about that. I just call it LCD and AMOLED. Sometimes I might call it OLED, AMOLED, but LCD, TFT, they're still an LCD. AMOLED, OLED, and all the other AMOLEDs, they're still OLED. So I usually call them LCD and OLED. But AMOLED is more common in names now, so I'm actually going to call it LCD and AMOLED. Alright, some stuff that you may not have to say is the screen aspect ratio. Normally, the screen aspect ratio is 19.5 by 9 for a normal phone, but if you're talking about some oddly ratio phones, like older phones or 21:9 phones, then you should talk about the aspect ratio. Okay, now I am going to talk about the camera. So the camera on the back is a 48 megapixel main sensor, and it is f1.8. It also has a 13 megapixel ultra wide shooter at f2.4, and normally the third camera is for depth, but in this phone you actually get a 2x optical zoom telephoto lens at 8 megapixels. That is a f2.4 aperture also. On the front you have a 20 megapixel f2.2 camera. Okay, things you should specify. What is its purpose? If it's a main camera, a wide camera, or telephoto. And you should also specify the megapixels in the most part. Some things I do not specify. One, who made the sensors? You can see I did not go like that. Main sensor is the Sony IMX582. No, I don't say that. Second, I did not say the focal range since that requires a little bit too much work, but just go check out gsmarena.com. They have everything. And something that you may say is like, no, not megapixels. You might want to say like how the software is. Like, even though if a Huawei device appears really bad, but Huawei software always allows it to take extremely good pictures. So that's something you might want to say. And then I will just show you some samples of photo, and then I will talk about video. It can record 4K 30 frames per second, and show you some video samples of the rear cameras and the front camera. Talk about how you can only shoot with one type of lens, so you cannot switch between main, telephoto, and wide. One important thing that I mentioned is when I talk about the lenses, the purposes, most companies go like wide, ultra wide, telephoto. But I don't do that. Instead, I actually say main, wide, and telephoto. I don't say wide and ultra wide. So if I say wide, I'm actually referring to the ultra wide and not the main lens. Alright, now I will talk about performance. The processor inside this phone is a Qualcomm Snapdragon 730. It is an 8nm process, and it is fully capable of playing some moderate heavy games. And I might show you a game sample and blah blah blah. Okay, things I say. Name of the processor, obviously. The process. Some things I do not say how much cores it has, because that's so dumb. Because every processor in 2015, every Android processor is octa-core, so it's totally pointless to say that. Some subjective thing I may say, or some things I may say is the clock speed, because it isn't really that important. But however, something that is important is like, what are the speed of the powerful cores and the efficient cores? In this case, there are 2 powerful cores and 6 efficient cores. That's something you might say. And I might even talk about a gigahertz speed, but usually I don't say that because it's not important. Alright. And I will now talk about the storage. The phone comes with 64 gigabytes of internal storage as the base variant, and is this 4 or 6? I think 6. Yeah, 6 gigabytes of RAM. Now, what I talk about is obviously how much RAM there is and how much gigabytes there is. But what I don't talk about is, first, how much, like the software, when you boot up the phone, how much storage is actually already used. And second, the manufacturer of the hardware. So you can see like there's a trend here. When reviewing phones, just talk about the general specs. Don't go in so deep to the hardware to the point of who made it. So, nothing more to talk about that. Now I will talk about the battery. The battery on this phone is a 4000 milliamp cell, and it charges through an 18-watt charger, which is actually included in the box. Okay, so I talk about the battery capacity and how fast it charges. What I don't talk about is the watt hour, which sometimes you may talk about it, but I don't talk about how much volts or amps the power is supplying through, and blah blah blah. I will mention is USB-C, which I've already mentioned earlier in the introduction. But charging and batteries is not something too picky about. By then I've already covered like the main things of a phone: a camera, performance, display, battery, build, and what else? Yeah, that's 5 important things of a phone. And if there are other stuff like software you want to talk about, like this phone is running Android 9 with a MIUI 10 on top of it. And yes, I just gave you a hint. If you don't know what MIUI is, search it up. Actually, I should have told you that. Well, you don't know how to spell it anyways, but that was a dead giveaway of what the phone is. Now, are you going to talk about the little comments? Like, is the pop-up selfie camera going to last? Like, it's rated for 300,000 times? That's something you may talk about, and then just talk about all the little details. But then you're pretty much finished.